The point of this is not to overwhelm you with information. It's really just to kind of give you some current best practices and some ways to let you know if your club is on the right track, or if there's some small tweaks, some changes that you can make, or in some cases, maybe some big changes that you want to make, and we can help you with all that stuff too. So I see it's 10:30. Let's see, how many registrants have we got in the room here? There's 8 of us. Why don't we go ahead and get started? 9 of us now. Thanks very much for popping in. Why don't we go ahead and get started, and yeah, then we can move on to some Q&A afterwards. So club website homepage, best and worst practices. One of the things that that I want to talk about first of all is some of those worst practices, and one of the worst practices that we see a lot with websites is these things called sliders. Now, what I've actually done for the purpose of this webinar is put together what I think is a pretty bad homepage here. Is everybody seeing this okay? This is my bad club homepage, and this picture right here that's scrolling by and changing all the time, now, this is what we call a slider. Now, sliders, the reason why we don't want to have these on our homepage is because they're distracting, right? They move quickly. Once people set their eyes on it, it disappears on them. It's kind of like if you were watching a TV show and somebody came in and changed the channel, you might think, hey, like, what's going on? I was watching that. What's even worse is that you'll notice that there's text on some of these images, and if the text is too long and people don't get to finish reading it by the time the picture changes, then it's a distraction. It's frustrating, and it's a bad first impression. It's a bad start for our audience. I'm actually getting frustrated just looking at this on my own computer screen right now. Now, if you have sliders on your homepage of your website, the best practice is to get rid of them. If you go into Google and you type in sliders on homepages like I did here, look at the results that we get. Why homepage carousels are bad. Sliders are also called carousels. Or sliders suck and should be banned from your website. And that's from Yoast.com. Like, this is one of the biggest SEO companies on the web. Instapage, their business is making good web pages. 6 reasons why image sliders are bad for conversions. Image carousels and sliders, don't use them. Here's why. So we've got so much data about sliders and not using them. So the best advice then is to get rid of the sliders, have static images that are really good and compelling, that really sort of tell the story about what your club is all about. And if you've got more imagery that you want to use to, entice people to find out more about your club, then what you want to do is just, use that as you go down the page. Let that become part of your page flow, right? So here's what I mean by that. So if I've got all these great pictures, then I can just use them as we go down the page. Okay. So yeah, rule number 1, no sliders. Worst practice number 1 is putting them on your website. Okay, so another homepage worst practice is a bad navigation menu. And there's a couple things that we really want our navigation menu to do. And it's supposed to, guide our visitors along their journey, okay? So we don't want to be too generic with our menu items in the navigation menu. And we also don't want to be too vague. Now, the difference between generic and vague is that generic might be something like, it might say something like membership. That's generic. More specific might be membership options, or membership types, or find your membership, something like that. Vague would be something like the experience. That would be vague. So let's go back to my crappy homepage here that I made, and we'll look at the navigation menu. Literally the only good thing about this particular navigation menu is that it's at the top of the page, which is where it should be. Sometimes people hide the navigation menu, like underneath this image, for example, and that's not a good idea. So you can see here that we have indulge, explore. These are not good navigation menu items. Indulge could mean anything. That could be a spa or a restaurant, and Really, we don't want people having to guess on exactly what this means. We want the navigation menu to present them with the option that we expect that they're looking for. Same with Explore. Join is not bad, but join what exactly? And we want to kind of pave the path, right? We want to let people know that when they click on this, this is the information that's on the other side of this link. Now, this last particular menu item is a bit of a different one, all about our company and purpose. It's possible for us to be too wordy in our menu items. This would probably be better off as our club or our company or about us or even just about. And you'll also notice too, this one's got a big sub menu here with a whole bunch of different things, 6 different sub menu items. We don't want to use sub menus. Like, we want to try to avoid using sub menus as much as possible. The purpose of the menu item is to get people to the next step. Okay, so if for example, they're inquiring about hosting a wedding at the club, we might just have a menu item that says host our wedding. We wouldn't need to have sub menu items underneath there. We can provide all that information once they get to that next page. So a sub menu like this can sometimes confuse our reader, and we don't want to create any confusion at all, particularly on our homepage. All right, so let's go back here now. The next worst practice in club homepages is social media feeds. I see a lot of clubs that will put their Facebook feed or their Twitter feed on their club homepage. Here's why that's a really bad practice, in my opinion, and I think it's something that everybody should just stop doing right away. When someone lands on your homepage, it's because they've gone to Google and they've typed in something, and then they chose you. They got a list of 10 pages, and then they chose your homepage to land on, right? They made it all the way to your club website page. Now we have their attention, right? We've got them in our store, so to speak. We don't want to serve them ways that they can leave. And when we put up our Facebook feed or we put up our Twitter feed, then it's possible for them to click on that and then they exit over to Facebook, and now they're wasting time looking at cat videos or whatever it is that they do on Facebook. So think about your homepage as, people walking into your store. The last thing we want to do is show them the exit before we've had a chance to show them what they're looking for, what they came here for. So if you've got your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed on your club homepage, I honestly think that the first thing you should do after this webinar is get rid of it. Okay. The next thing that we want to talk about is calls to action. Now, I promised you in the lead up to this, in the emails that I sent, that I'd show you some absolute must-haves on your website. And the call to action is by far the most important thing that you must have on the homepage of your website. Now, the call to action is a little bit tricky, okay, because we want to make sure that when the visitor comes to the homepage, they get the information that they're looking for, and then they know what to do next. So the call to action has to really, we have to know that they're primed to take action, and then we want to present them with the action that we want them to take, but also that they should want to take, right? So if somebody is coming to our club website to look at, booking a tour so that they can, take the next step toward membership, then we definitely want that call to action to say something like, schedule your tour now, or book your tour of the club, because that's the next step. Inquire about membership, that's not as good because maybe they're not there yet, right? So we want to guide them along the path about booking the tour or seeing what the membership options are, that sort of thing. We want our calls to action to pop. And here's what I mean by that, okay? I've got these 2 different call to action spaces right here. So I've got some content and a button. And this one here, this button, it just kind of blends in with the background, right? It's the same color as the background. It's not very clearly defined. Now down here, I've got the same thing, but this time it's got a higher contrast, right? It's this big orange button. You notice I made the text a bit bigger. It really jumps out of the page, and it's really clear to the visitor that that's a button that we can go ahead and press. Let's see, I got something in the chat here. Do social media icons with links to the page on the homepage count as feeds? Leanne, that's a great question. Let me finish up about calls to action, and then I'm going to go ahead and answer that question for you. And thanks very much for using the chat to ask your question. So we want our calls to action to pop, okay? So that's an example of one that pops. We want to make the copy transformational for our reader. And here's what I mean by that. Now, if you're in the last webinar where we talked about how we want our website to talk about the reader, the person reading it, rather than talk about the club, it's that old Dale Carnegie lesson where when we talk about ourselves, we bore people, but when we talk about other people, they'll listen for hours. Here's what I mean by that, by the copy being transformational. Let me read this aloud to you. The headline is Championship Golf. Our course is designed by renowned architect November T. Bublington. The signature protected greens, the rolling fairways, the sprawling waste areas. This course is a challenge. Okay, you've got to be kind of a golf course nerd to be really interested in that and then to go ahead and click this call to action. But what about this? Fun, relaxing, or challenging golf. It's up to you. Quality time with your family, friendly competition with your friends, or an unending pursuit of par. No matter how you choose to enjoy the game of golf, you'll never find a better home course than here. Find out for yourself how the 18 holes at Pegasus Country Club are never the same round twice. Right? So, I'm not saying this is like the greatest copy ever, but what it does do is it puts the reader first. It explores different ways that they enjoy the game of golf, and then it invites them to find out, why playing this particular course is it's never the same way twice, right? And then the call to action, show me membership options. Admittedly, I could have done a better job. I could have said, try the course yourself or come see it for yourself or something like that. But what we want is this copy to take the person from their current state, which is, I'm thinking about joining a club, to helping paint the picture in their mind about what it would be like, in this case as a golf club, to play a round of golf at this club. And focus the call to action text on what the reader gets. So in this case, the reader is going to get membership options, right? They're going to see what the options for joining this club are. Up here, when the call to action was buy a membership, it's more focused on what they're parting with. We have to buy something. There's a little bit of pain that comes along with that. We know that we have to part with money. But when we, get a membership, that's a little bit different. We're focused, the text is focused on what we receive, which is membership at the club. So, just sort of consider what the text is asking your reader to do when we're focusing on the call to action. All right, so Leanne, you asked about, going back to social media feeds here, you asked about buttons that link to your social media feeds. Now, those aren't nearly as bad as feeds to the Facebook page or to the Twitter page. There's really only one place that I like to see those buttons, however, that link out to your Facebook page. And I only like to see those in the footer of the website. So only after our reader has scrolled all the way down, they've gotten through all of our content, and they've seen the value that we provide on the homepage, only then do I want them to know that we have a social media presence as well. So you can put a button that links to your, an icon really that links to your Facebook page, to your Twitter, your Instagram, your YouTube channel, your LinkedIn, whichever social feeds that you use. And make sure, it's very important, by the way, to make sure that those links open in a new tab, right? We don't want people to leave our homepage and forget about us. We want them to be on our homepage until they take the next steps. So I hope that answers your question. If you have questions as I go, by the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. Now, let's talk a little bit about your customer journey, because this is what the homepage, above all, has to focus on, is the customer journey. And the customer journey is this. It's these 4 steps that a customer goes through before they, make a purchase, before they join up at a club, really before they do any kind of conversion, any kind of interaction. And the 4 steps are awareness, interest, decision, and action. So the easiest way to describe the customer journey is with a headache. Okay, so here's my my customer. She's got this pounding headache. And that's the awareness stage. So she wakes up, she has a headache, she's aware, right? And then probably very, very quickly after awareness, she switches to interest, which is, I want the headache to go away. So once she's interested in the headache going away, she's going to start to do a little bit of research, right? How can I make my headache go away? And she's probably going to get online, and she's probably going to Google something like headache remedies. So now she's researching, and she's in the interest stage, and now she's researching headache remedies. So she probably watches a video where you can, rub your hand like this. She sees a blog about putting an ice bag on your head, and then she reads an ad about having your headache cured in 10 minutes by taking an aspirin tablet. So now she really quickly moves to the decision phase, which is she's going to do something about it. And then she takes action. She goes to the medicine cabinet, grabs the bottle of aspirin, and takes one with a glass of water. So the customer journey: awareness, interest, decision, and action. Excuse me. So the reason the customer journey is so important is because the homepage is kind of the culmination of the second step of the customer journey for us. It's interest. So when our customer arrives on the homepage of our club, they're in the interest phase, right? They've probably gone on Google. They've probably been aware already that I might like to join a club. And then they've gone on Google and they've Googled something like clubs in Toronto, or best yacht club in Vancouver, or something to that effect, right? And so now they've looked at this Google search results page with 10 different responses. The top ones are going to be ads, which is why it's always good to advertise your club on Google. And then they clicked on one and they clicked on our homepage. Great, they made it all the way to our homepage. So now what we want to do is answer the broad questions that they might have. Broad questions in the interest stage are going to be things like, what's it like to join a club? What do I have to do to join the club? Maybe how much does it cost to join the club? But they might have some really broad questions about joining the club. We don't need to answer really specific questions like, update them on board policies or elections or any of the minutia that goes into being a member of the club. We really just want to be that guide that's going to answer the questions that they have at this stage when they're just starting to explore their curiosity about joining a club. So here's a few tests that you can run for your homepage. The first one is really, really easy test to see how your homepage stacks up, and it's check the bounce rate. So if you've got Google Analytics plugged into your website, then what you can do is you can go ahead and check your website's homepage bounce rate. So your homepage in Google Analytics is going to look like this, a slash. It should anyway, just look like a slash. And then you'll see right here the bounce rate. And the bounce rate means the people that arrive on your homepage and then they don't go to any other pages on your website. They leave your website immediately. So if they come to your homepage and then they leave, and you have a high bounce rate, then that tells us that the homepage rather, is not answering those broad questions that people are coming there with, and it's not leading them to the next step. There could be a lot of reasons for that. One, the copy is not right. The copy doesn't answer people's questions. The calls to action don't guide them to the logical next step that they want to have. So we want to make sure that that bounce rate, we want to get that as low as possible. Now, to be honest, in this case here, 56% bounce rate on this homepage, that's actually not bad. That means that 1 out of every 2 people essentially is clicking one of the links, going further down the customer journey on our website, which is what we want. The next test is to see if your website answers the key questions. Now, you can get your team together, your marketing team together, and really just sort of whiteboard this and go, what are the key questions that people would have about our club? The second thing that you can do is you can bring in a panel of your members and say, before you joined the club, what were the key questions that you had about A, joining a club, and then B, what were the questions you had about our club specifically before you joined, right? Jot those down and then ask yourself, does our website in fact address those questions in a meaningful way that's really clear, easy for that reader to understand? Then you can ask yourself, what is the most important thing that we want our website visitors to know about our club? And what's the most important thing that they should know about our yacht club, about our cricket club or curling club when they land on the website? And is that information front and center? And is it clear? Is that clearly answered on the homepage of our website? And then the last thing is, if our visitor comes to our homepage and they like what they see, is it obvious what they're supposed to do next? And that is going to lead us into what we call the funnel, the sales funnel, right? Leads us down the customer journey. But we know that we're going to have a lot of people that are visiting the homepage for some different reasons. Maybe they want to join a social club or golf club or an athletic club or whatever the case may be. If you're a multi-sport facility, you're going to have to address those things. So we work with a club in Edmonton called the Derrick Club, and they've got curling, pool, fitness. They've got golf. They've got a good social program. And so we might want on that homepage, to have elements of that homepage that address all of these questions, and then have calls to action that lead them to these various components on the website. so that they can find out more information about what it is that they are specifically interested in. So those questions again are, what is the most important thing that we want our website visitor to know about our club? Is that clearly answered on the homepage of our website? And if they like what they see, is it obvious what they're supposed to do next? So that really is the end of this webinar. Like I said, it's short, 20 minutes, and I wanted to open it up to questions as well as have a look at Mike's website here from Red Deer. So if you have any questions, go ahead and you can either turn on your microphone or you can pop them up in the chat, and I'll be happy to address them here. But Mike, let's have a look at this. So, okay. It's the Red Deer Golf and Country Club, established 1922. Cool. So I'm seeing a couple of things here. I'm getting a lot all at one time, right? I've got the golf shop here, the food and beverage here, membership area here. It's not really clear to me that these are buttons, and they're kind of obscuring this image. So I think there might be some opportunities to redesign the website and kind of move the layout down a bit. I picture this golf shop, for example, if this is the most important thing you want people to know about, that it could be a headline here that says golf shop, and then tells me a little bit about the golf shop. The food and beverage program, same thing. The members area, same thing. Yeah, I just think that there's a good opportunity here to provide a little bit more of a simplified layout that answers questions in a more clear fashion and doesn't really kind of clutter up the visitor's eye. And we could also maybe put all of this navigation together in one menu, move the logo off to the side a little bit. I think that might make it easier for this for people to navigate this website and then find out exactly what it is that they are looking for. That's just a brief overview, Mike. If you wanted to talk more about that, I'm happy to schedule a call with you. We can discuss it and maybe find some different ways that we can improve that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we can go ahead and just answer some questions if you want to pop them up in the chat, or if you want to turn on your microphone, go ahead. Other than that, you're free to go. Feel free to drop off the webinar if you like. But before you do, I would just like to let you know that the next webinar I'm going to be hosting will be on Thursday morning. And the topic for this particular webinar is going to be e-commerce for clubs, from idea to online store in under a week. I'll put the link to the registration in the chat right now, or in just a second, so that you can go ahead and link right to that and sign up for it if you want. The thing about this particular webinar, e-commerce for clubs, is that now's actually a really good time to explore e-commerce for your club. It might not seem that way, with the closure going on and what we're all dealing with the COVID-19 situation. But the truth is that you've got an opportunity to serve your members in all sorts of different ways, and e-commerce might be one of those ways. And the second thing is that you've got a lot of member retention right now. Like there's a lot of boredom happening out there. And if you're the club that's launching new products and sort of trying new things, trying to find new ways to serve your members, then you might find that an e-commerce platform for your club the timing for it is almost perfect right now. So I'd highly recommend you sign up for that one. We'll go over how to get started with e-commerce, some of the challenges that you're going to face, and really on the other side of that coin, how easy it is to actually get your club up and running quite quickly. So that is on Thursday morning, and feel free to sign up. The link for that one is in the chat. Mike, he said, thanks for the quick review of the club website. We'll do some changes in the fall and the winter. Yeah, great. That's a good strategy. I'll say this to everybody. I'm not wrapping your knuckles here, Mike, but I will definitely say that there is no better time to change things than right now. We can always say that tomorrow is the best time to do it. But no matter what decision you're faced with, I would, particularly when it comes to marketing, there's never going to be a better time than now. Trevor asks, for those who cannot listen and read at the same time, are the slides available? Trevor, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually recording this webinar, and I'm going to post it on our website at totalclubunity.com. I'll send that link out to everybody that attended this webinar, so you can go ahead and you'll get a complete recap of this webinar, and you can kind of share it around your club. So expect that in your inbox I'll try and do it later today, but it might come to you as late as tomorrow. So thanks very much for being here, Trevor. Deborah, great to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. Ryan, you too. It was great to connect with you out in Toronto when I was out there, and it seems like crazy long time ago now, but it was so nice to be out there with you back then. Alex, good to hear from you again. Thanks very much for being in the webinar today. Looks like I have some homepage work to do, says Leanna. Thanks for the suggestions. No, you're absolutely welcome. And if I can be of direct assistance to you, let me know. Just drop me an email, or if you have some questions about your club's homepage, I'd be happy to help out. I'll hang around for a few more minutes. If there's any more questions, you go ahead and pop them in.
Hey, Roger, it's Greg. How you doing?
Good to hear from you, man. How are things?
Yeah, good. Hey, it's like a trial by fire being a new GM in this this current state. But quick question: call to action would probably be a little different in this time. Just hey, come on for a tour.
Right.
Any way we can get creative in maybe we had a fish on the hook that was really interested, and now it's kind of gone into a holding pattern. From what I understand, some of the bigger data analysis out of the States is that it's probably going to delay things 2 to 4 months for maybe a new member wanting to join a club. Any good creative ideas on maybe different calls to action?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think my creative brain starts to swirl a little bit here, and the first thing I wonder is how can you give a virtual tour of your club? Even if it's you, Greg, walking around with your iPhone camera and talking about talking about the different elements, the golf course, the pro shop, the dining room, all that great stuff. And don't be afraid of exposing the reality that we're in too, right? Everybody's experiencing this COVID shutdown. So if you did that video and it was personal, like you could kind of personalize it for that member and say, hey, Greg, this would be a bustling clubhouse if we weren't closed right now. And we've got a great hamburger steak sandwich in here. And, you can kind of, you've got a little bit of latitude to use here because we're all experiencing this sort of unprecedented shutdown. That's kind of one example. The other thing that I would do with those leads that you've got, those fish on the hook, as you say, is I would be serving them with pretty regular communication and try to personalize that communication as much as I could to just sort of say, to reinforce the decision that they were thinking about making, right? To reinforce that whole, their interest in joining a club, to let them know that, the club's going to be back. It's going to be better than ever. We hope you're still in a great situation to join us, and maybe even ask them a question like, when this is all over, what are you most looking forward to about club life? So I hope there's some good suggestions in there. Kind of going right back though to the basis of your question with those calls to action on the website. Yeah, you're right. Putting schedule a tour is probably not as appropriate, but sign up for a virtual tour might be, or take the virtual tour might be, or other ways that you're going to be able to reach out to people, like booking a phone call, for example, might be a solution for you there. Does that help at all, Greg?
That's perfect. Yeah, thanks.
All right, cool, man. Thanks very much. Ryan asked this question. Would you advise the ability to scroll down on the homepage, or should it all be a page without needing to scroll or within headers? That's an awesome question, Ryan. So here's the common thought, and I am a firm believer in figuring out what's popular and then drafting on it, kind of like stealing some of those ideas, right? So if you think about like this device that everybody owns, right? Smartphones, and one of the most popular apps on a smartphone is the Facebook app. And it's just this endless scroll, right? People are just constantly scrolling. And same with Instagram, same with tons of those social media apps that people spend so much of their time on. So yes, I absolutely advise the ability that people can scroll down your website. And the reason for that is because it's this expected thing, right? They have this expectation that they'll be able to scroll and get more and more information. They also know what the bottom of a website looks like. Your footer really indicates that, okay, this is the deep end. There's nothing beyond this. So yeah, having a website that scrolls and that as that scroll goes by, it answers the questions you know, those obvious questions that people are going to have that they'll want to have answered on your homepage. You know, let the scrolling sort of answer and address those questions in the priority of importance for you as the club, but also for them on their customer journey. Give me a thumbs up if that's a good answer for you, Ryan. So less pages and more scrolling. Okay, yeah, that's certainly one way to interpret that. You know what? I would have less pages for one really strong reason, and it's because SEO for your website wants to have pages that can answer more questions that are more helpful to the viewer. So here's an example of this, okay? Let's say that you are a club that has, and Ryan, you're a golf club, so I'll use a golf club as an example, but let's say you've got 6 different membership categories because you've got all these different membership types, right? So you've got single, couple, family, intermediate, junior, and sponsored junior, just 6 different membership categories. Rather than having one page for each of those categories, it's better, in my opinion, to have all 6 categories on one page, okay? And then you can, if you needed to, you could put anchor links at the top of the page so that somebody could click on intermediate and then it would just automatically scroll them to that part of the page. That's not entirely necessary to do that. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But when we have all those different membership types on that one page, then what that tells search engines is that, hey, this is a really helpful page. There's a lot of great information here. So it should be prioritized in search rankings. So that, that's a key consideration for your SEO. But what you also want is for people to spend more time on the page, to not click away from the page as quickly, and to sort of get used to understanding that the pages on this website are filled with the great information that I'm looking for. So I should probably click around a little bit more, or go ahead and book a tour because I'm being served well by the web experience here. So yeah, I would favor fewer pages and more scrolling rather than more pages with no scrolling, right? Brian says, okay, great, thanks. You are absolutely welcome. Deborah, Alex, do you have any questions as well? Well, all right. Well, I'm good. This was great. Thanks, Deborah. I really appreciate that. I'm just going to go ahead and end it now. I'm going to end the meeting. Like I said, when Trevor asked the question, we'll make sure that the replay is available on the website, totalclubunity.com. If you've got any other questions, you can reach me at roger@totalclubunity.com, or you can catch me here on another webinar. Like I said, then the next one is Thursday morning, and you'll be receiving an email invitation to that one as well. So Greg, Deborah, Alex, thanks so much for being here today. Thanks to everybody who joined the webinar, and we will see you again soon.